some of the things I'm talking about, I've never mentioned to anyone.
I definitely deal with racism on a daily basis.
Their system is set up in such a way that it's not there to benefit people of color.
Slavery was hundreds of years ago, but the implications from that are still current.
I wanted to always be proud and embrace my blackness, but at the same time, I felt like I couldn't.
As Black parents, like we just want our kids to come.
I'm originally from Ethiopia. I came to the United States in 1994. The original intent coming to the United States was to go to college. So I went to MSU, Mankato State University. I got along with people. I didn't have any problem connecting with people. And I just basically have a rather extrovert approach to people. I usually am positive. So I was pretty oblivious when it comes to, race relations in the United States at the beginning. I was quite oblivious. Everything was educational. I lived with white family while attending MSU, so I really picked up their lingo on how to get along with people. And people knew me through the people that sponsored me here. So, that's really how I ended up in southern Minnesota.
I am the program director at Mankato Youth Place, and I am also a licensed cosmetologist, and I work at my family's salon and barbershop. It's called Northside Hair Company, and we are located in North Mankato. Something that is unique about us compared to other places in Mankato is that we are a multicultural salon, so we serve anybody who walks through our door. My mom is a stylist there as well, and she's white. My stepdad is a barber there, and he's Black. I'm biracial, and 6 of us 7 kids are biracial. So I come from a blended family, and that kind of changes my experience growing up. I grew up in Dallas, Texas for the most part, but I was born here. I went to Dakota Meadows for 2 years, and I went to West High School for a bit too, so kind of have different experiences in different places.
6-7 years ago is when we had a huge influx of East Africans, immigrants, first generation immigrants coming to, Midwest USA. And I started seeing reactions from people, including my mother of my kids right now. They started making a very strong statement about Somalians and Sudanese people, and it wasn't nice. It was to the lines of, they're going to ruin our country. They're going to change us to a banana republic. They're here to take advantage of our welfare system. It was just, number one, it was baseless because it was their perception. They came here. Most of them were helpless. They didn't speak the language well. They didn't understand the mannerisms, so maybe they spoke too loud. So when they came here, the whole experience for them was different, and the weather was different, and they had a different outfit that they wore. So they looked different, and chances are they got picked on because of it. Now, it doesn't mean everybody's racist. There are unspoken codes as a resident of this Midwest that you have to have in order for you to be accepted as somebody that can benefit from the system.
Race was present in my life from the time that I was a small child. When I was younger, I hear this story all the time from my mom. She tells me my mom and her best friend, they were best friends since kindergarten, and her daughter and myself were born 6 months apart, and we used to always spend time together. And from what I understand of the story, I was too young to remember, but our neighbor, or it was either our neighbor or their neighbor, was a member of the KKK. And he was very confident in that. He was very proud of it. And I remember, he was just a jerk. And we had to deal with that when I was younger. And that was one of the final straws that my mom says, it was one of the final reasons that she was finally like, okay, we're just gonna get out of here. We're gonna move to Texas. You have this white woman in the late 90s with 2 small biracial kids, living in Mankato when there was, I mean, she graduated in 94 and there was one Black person in her class. That's it. So it started happening. It started being an issue from the time I was little. Like it was always a thing. I've never not known what it was like for race to be an issue.
Then there's the overt, racial aggressions. And I think that's something that more people are familiar with. That would be like using the N word or laughing at things like blackface, theater, or graffiti, spraying graffiti on someone's house or wall. And I guess maybe I'm a little bit alone here, but I look at the Confederate flag as like a major aggression, not just micro. Just because of what it stands for. And we've had an incident here where our neighbors had a Confederate flag and they had posted it in the window that directly faces our dining room table. So every time we were sitting at the table, we were looking out our window at that. So I think the micro, think of that as things that are just under the radar, things that you may be saying, well, is that something racist or isn't it? I can't tell if it's a compliment or, and then of course the outward slashing tires. If you think of burning a cross, the KKK, that is kind of the in-your-face racism.
I was doing police work, ended up going to this house, got inside the house, and there was a huge Confederate flag. And we're basically helping a man that was fighting with another man, badly beat up. And essentially here I was standing looking at the flag and looking at them. They can tell. Basically I was perplexed. I asked him, I point blank, I said, what is that doing there? I mean, I thought you guys lost. So much so that a black man is here to save your ass. And I didn't know why I said that, but I did. And the guy kind of looked at me a little bit perplexed, like, oh, it's just heritage. Yeah, heritage of losers. Why did I do that? I do not know. But it was a reaction. It felt like a slap in the face. Here I am, trying to come and help you out. You still have a flag that represented slavery. I thought that was misplaced. It just did not belong at all. And I just came out of that house feeling like, why am I doing this for? I mean, there are people that are still thinking that I'm below them. And here I am helping them out. So that mentality, it can't register in my head because where I came from, I grew up thinking that everybody is equal. In the United States, it's a slow realization that there is a system that is set up to keep you thinking that you are never to be equal.
I played football for a year and had a locker in the locker room with my name tag on it, and it was laminated. And the idea was when you had good plays, you would get like scratches or something on there. And so I had gone to an away game, and when I came back, I went to my locker and someone had written in permanent marker, they wrote the N word on it. And I remember I was very angry. I was extremely upset. And I think that people around me thought it was bad, but I think the perception is often that, oh, something bad happened to you, you cool off and then it's done. But that still sticks with me to this day. I have no idea who did it. The school said that they would look into it, and no one ever asked me any questions. I never heard of them following up with anybody on anything or checking any tapes or whatever. It was just, I felt like it's completely swept under the rug, and that I was so alone in that experience, knowing that there's a classmate or a peer that would do something like that and nothing was being done to follow up. I just felt kind of worthless at the time, and like I wasn't valued in my community and I wasn't protected. So when it comes to the N-word, it's an extremely problematic word for a lot of reasons, but if you take a quick jog back down history, you learn how the word was used and the power that it had. I know that there's an argument, whether cracker is the same thing as saying the N-word, and it's just not. It's not a nice word to say to call someone, but there is no historical power whatsoever that the word cracker held over anybody. You know, when you look back at Jim Crow, and you see like no N-words allowed, or N-words to here or there is so much societal power behind that word, and everyone knows it too. People don't accidentally use it. If you use that word, you know the power that it holds, and you are exercising that power over someone else. And so it's not an accident. It's always intentional when you say that word, and people know that it's off limits. As far as white people saying, why can black people say it and white people can't? Black people, we've kind of repurposed the word, and also it is a different word. And you could argue that black people shouldn't use it as well, because it still stems from the same oppressive word. But the fact of the matter is, black people weren't using that word to oppress ourselves. It was white people in the institutions that use that word as a means to oppress and lynch and impose their will upon other people. And so there's just no room for that word to be used whatsoever.
Allyship is important, right? I think it's important for black folks, right? So I'm saying this to black folks, is that like we can't do it alone. There are some things we will have to do, and that is we have to become more united. We have to fully understand the long-term goals, right, of equality and equity. Like, we have to do that internally. We have to do some of that work. But we also have to understand that we're in a country of 330 million folks, and we are not a majority, right? That we do have to form these partnerships that allow us to move forward. And we do have some folks in white community that are willing to be our allies. Malcolm X, right? If you read the autobiography of Malcolm X, one of his regrets is that he had a young white woman travel to see him to ask, what can I do to help in the struggle? And at the time, he dismissed her, didn't say anything. And what he said is like that was one of his regrets. That I should have told her what she could do. I should have told her how she could help. And so even for some in the black community, what they consider to be our most like a revolutionary figure, understood allyship, understood that like we all, like if folks want to play a part, how do we have them do that? So what they could do, one is to just do some education, right? So I mean, it is important in a country as racialized as America that we understand what race, what whiteness is, what anti-blackness is, right? What being non-racist versus anti-racist is, right? And so I think that first part is what like white America can do. I think the other thing is that white America has to admit that there's a history that that plays into black folks' psyche that is absolutely justified in mistrusting America.
I think that the most important thing that white people can do for us as an ally is listen to what we're saying and listen to understand, not listening to respond. Because so frequently I have conversations with people and they, oh, but this, oh, but this, oh, but this, and this happened and this is not true. And it's just, you don't always have to even say anything back. Just listen to understand where we're coming from, listen to our experiences, and don't discount the fact, like, I understand that slavery was hundreds of years ago, but the implications from that are still current. They're still ongoing. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. You wouldn't, everybody says all the time, you wouldn't tell a Holocaust survivor to get over it. You wouldn't tell the generations after them to get over it. They're going to keep that history and they're going to hold it close to them and they're going to remember it. And that's how it is too. I mean, I have documents from my, I believe it's 4 great grandmother. She lived to be 119 years old, and she was a slave when Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. And she actually was freed when she was freed by soldiers who came to the plantation that she was on and told them that they were free. And she was there with her brother, and they were freed, and she never saw her brother again. But she got married, and they grew cotton, and it wasn't that far away. Like, it was 4 generations or 4 greats ago. And I feel like that's something that people really have to understand, is that it's really not as far away as you think it is. And those implications are still there, and the consequences of it are still happening, and things are still changing because of it. And people don't want to believe that and don't want to accept that. But I think that's the biggest thing that can happen, because in order for anything to change, you have to first admit what the problem is. Just like if you want an addict to seek treatment, they have to admit that they have a problem. So we as a country and as a community have to admit that we have issues because of the past.